Have you ever seen someone living an amazing life and thought to yourself, how'd they get so lucky? If you are not currently living a life that's on your terms, a life by your design, then this podcast series is for you. This is the More Confidence with Luna Guy podcast. And in this special season, I'm going to be interviewing people who are living a life by design, living a life on their terms. And I'm going to find out once and for all if it is just luck or there's something more going on. Let's dive in. Kirsten Leo, you have a master's in theology. You are now what some might call, even though you are probably less likely to, a psychic channel. You're a medium. You are a moon mentor, a healer, and a guide. You went from deep into theology, which for those people who don't know, it's all about religion, and into a spirituality. And you once told me that religion is the gateway drug to spirituality. How did you make that transition from deep religious theology kind of mindset and movement and beliefs into what you're doing now?
I think it's important for people to define for themselves what religion is and what spirituality is. My definition of
Mm.
that may not suit your definition of that, and that's totally fine. Okay. But for me, this is how I understand religion and spirituality. They are two heads of the same beast, so to speak.
Mm.
But I do have a master's in theology, and theology is ultimately looking at spiritual text, so scripture, aka what is written in the Bible. And it's
Okay.
actually looking at the words through a historical as well as a metaphysical or spiritual context. So theologians'
Mm.
tasks are, and I'm not a theologian, I've just studied it, but
Mm.
a theologian will sit and try to draw meaning from the words that are written in a spiritual text, taking into
Wow.
account the historical culture, climate, the purpose of the text, the
Mm-hmm.
intention of the text. And the interesting thing about theology is none of these answers can ever be answered completely.
Like final, right? There's nothing
Yeah,
set in stone. It's almost
yeah,
like philosophy, right? Like it's
100%. Because we can't ask the person that wrote, say, those two lines in the Gospel of John, what he meant by that or what his intention was by that, because the dude's dead.
yeah,
Like he doesn't
yeah,
exist anymore, right? So,
yeah.
and so the way I see religion and spirituality is that the you have to look at what the function of religion is, maybe in today's society, but definitely what it was back
Mm.
when it originated. So the fact that humans have known since they incarnated on this earth that there is an energetic or a spiritual component to our existence has,
Mm.
it's been since the dawn of time. We live in a
Yeah.
land of the oldest people, and their spirituality and culture is very prevalent and very strong. And they would use stories to explain physical phenomena. They would use
Mm.
stories to explain social rules. They would use stories to make some kind of tangible understanding between that which we can see and touch 3D into
Yep.
that which we know intrinsically and in the 5D.
Mm.
So even from the beginning of time, without the structure of religion, this has existed as part of the human experience, trying to make sense of it, trying to experience it ultimately for depth of understanding and for connection. So when religion came along, it was really more, it's actually a political tool as opposed to a spiritual tool.
Have heard that. Yes. Yeah.
So
It's
if
about governing people, right? And
yeah,
putting, well, a lot of people in fear as well, right? Is that part of it? Like you must fear God, you fear the church. The church were the only people who could read. They were the only people who could that were educated. So everybody else was less than. So you had to revere the upper people. Is that kind of what you're talking about there?
that's kind of like modern history. So if we look at, say, the Roman Empire,
Mm.
so they're having to control their empires, for example, right? So
Yep.
if let's say in the case of Jesus, Jesus is doing his thing, rolling around what we now know as present day Israel,
Mm-hmm.
and he is teaching or speaking of spiritual concepts or energetic concepts. Love one
Mm-hmm.
another. We are actually from the same
Same
source. We are all
source.
connected. Healing is possible. Transfer of
Mm-hmm.
energy. That's all he was talking about, right? But
Yep.
the
Yeah.
reason why he became so notorious is because he was born in a time where the Roman Empire was trying to control this space in Earth, present day Israel.
Wow.
So if
Wow.
people are all of a sudden finding what this dude says is really interesting and following him,
Mm.
what are they doing? They're questioning the government. So
Yes.
let's top him. And so people can follow us in terms of what we do. Now, 200 years later, after his death, these scriptures come out. They're written like his word was basically put on paper. And
Yeah.
so then we have, ironically, the Roman Empire or Rome. And if you're a historian listening to this, you know I'm butchering the actual, just to get a general sense of people to
But for
understand.
everyone else, this is very useful because I have no clue. So this is I'm glad that I know me it's butchered, and I'm glad that I also am getting educated in it. So thank you.
But just to know that religion essentially became a governing tool as opposed to an enlightened and a spiritual one. Is there that
Yes.
aspect? Of course. And this is why I, as a spiritual person, like you say, that the hats that I hold now and the way I teach now, I really,
Mm.
really, really value religion, no matter what religion it is. I
Yeah.
don't care. Obviously, not when it's doing harm, but I really,
Mhm.
really value religion because religion gives people a gateway into the fifth dimension, the unseen, the spiritual. Words like
Yes.
faith, hope, redemption, and
Surrender,
all
salvation,
of that.
like yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
So, religion, what religion's doing is it's giving people some type of guidelines to live by.
Mhm. Mm.
So now in today's society, the function of religion is one of cultural transference, it's one of tradition, it's one
Mhm.
of giving people a moral code or something to hang their hat on. What we've
Yeah.
seen, especially in the evangelical world, and I'm talking about Christianity here, I'm not talking
Uh-huh.
about the evangelical world of Islam or anything like that because I
Mhm.
don't know it, but because we live in Australia, we're very affected by this because there is an evangelical movement here, you know, such as Hillsong, big churches like
Mhm.
that. And this comes from, a lot of it comes from America. And so how do they use religion over there? Right. They use
Mhm.
evangelical religion to control the people. Like, these are the rules.
Yeah.
And now it controls the government. For example, abortion laws,
Abortion
women's not
laws, that's it.
having
Yeah, my
rights
first
over
thought,
their
yeah.
bodies. It's all anchored in religion, in inverted
Same-sex
commas.
marriage, has been
All
that
of
like,
that.
well, you're ruining the sanctity of marriage. Or it's
Yeah,
like, let's face it, guys. The straighties are doing a really good job of that
yeah,
in and of
exactly.
themselves, right?
But even marriage, you look at that marriage, the concept of marriage being a romantic or
Yes,
thing is a very new concept.
it is.
Like
Yeah,
it,
we didn't do it for love. We did it again, for law, for contract,
it's
right?
yeah,
Like it was a
it's
business
contractual.
arrangement.
It's a business arrangement. It's the way a woman could ensure that she was looked after. It's a way to keep money in certain areas of society. It was never
Yeah,
about
about
I'm
love.
committing to you because I love you and we're going to have this family. But again,
Hmm.
see how we take these religious, what we perceive to be religious ideals, and we use them to structure society on. I am not anti-structuring society. I think we absolutely
Mm,
need a structure. We need an
totally.
understanding of what is the common good. And religion
Mm,
has provided that for
yep.
people over many centuries. What we're
Yeah.
noticing is this not questioning so much of religion, but questioning of its infallible interpretation of these, what they are. They're
Mm,
just
mm,
historical, philosophical documents,
yep.
and using that to create society, maybe moral code, and definitely, as
Mm.
we just discussed in some cases, law. But
Yeah.
I do believe religion is a gateway to spirituality because it
Yeah.
gives people that insight. I always used to find it really funny in my background as a Catholic school teacher that anything woo woo or spiritual was blatantly not allowed. And I used to
Yeah.
chuckle inside because I'd be like, so you're all sitting here in church asking forgiveness for your sins or whatever you're doing to a God that you can't see or do, but I can't. But what you find funny is that I can't connect in with my own intuition and
Yeah.
use that to really
Yeah.
guide my thought process and stuff like that. So it's all one and the same thing. Now, I'm not saying that they're
Mm.
wrong and I'm right at all,
I can hear that. Yeah.
but it's people really accessing
Mm.
spiritual concepts to the level, I believe, this might be a little controversial, so you come at me, but I
Yeah. Bring
believe
it.
religion is people accessing spirituality to their level of desired autonomy.
Yeah.
So if I go to a church, here are the rules. Okay, I live by these rules. I get married, I don't get divorced,
Mm.
I don't
Mm.
have premarital sex, abortion is wrong, whatever it is, right?
You're telling me how to think from that perspective in terms of like, well, I don't need to make those decisions. I don't need to think internally with myself whether or not I believe in abortion. The church tells me and let's be clear, it's the church that tells you about that, not God or
No,
not Jesus or not, I mean, maybe the Bible, but as you so articulately said, 200 years after Jesus was around, that's when that was written by people that weren't even there. So we can't even know if that was the word of Jesus, really. Is that fair to say?
yeah, true. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of historians and theologians that have pretty good consensus that a lot of what was written could have been accurate, but and culturally, the biggest interest I had in theology actually was learning about the Jewishness of Jesus and understanding, as being brought up a Catholic, where all our traditions came from. Actually, like because Jesus was a Jew. Um,
Yeah, I've always thought that. I remember seeing someone on the back of a car. Um, my God was a Christian. It was Christian saying something like, "My God was a Jewish carpenter," and I was like, "How are you Christian when your God was Jewish?" I never understood that. Talk to me about it.
as far as my understanding goes, the Jews basically there's a group of people that so in the Jewish tradition, what we would call as
Mhm.
Catholics the Old Testament, they would call the Torah. In the
Yep.
Torah, the Old Testament, what is spoken of is that Christ or God will become man.
Yeah. Right.
Now, spiritually, what that means is that we shall reach enlightenment. Okay.
Yeah. So that's your interpretation of that. Is that how you read that?
Yeah, most spiritual people will read it like that, right?
Yeah, cool. And I mean, like, and I hear it that way too. When I hear that, I'm like, oh yeah, God becomes man. I'm like, yeah, because we embody
Yeah.
Christ consciousness. We
Christ,
embody God, right?
Christ consciousness is just love. That's
Yes.
all it is.
Yeah. Amen.
So,
Amen.
so it's like if I'm reaching Christ consciousness, not reaching, actually, it's not something we need to reach for, it's something we need to remember. If I'm remembering my
Nice.
divinity, I
Yep.
am remembering that everything is love and everything
Yeah.
that isn't love is egoic human experience. So
Beautiful.
basically, in because people take the words of these ancient texts that don't make sense to us in this day and age because we don't speak like that anymore.
Uh-huh.
Like logically or literally,
Literally.
they're like, okay, so some dude is going to come who's a man who's actually God. And
Yep.
so the Jews are sitting around waiting for this dude to come. Along comes this Jesus dude. He was probably just embodying Christ consciousness. He was channeling. So when Jesus was little, there's a passage that talks about he goes to the temple and he starts teaching all the holy
Mm.
men in the temple. That's just channeling. Like
Yep.
anyone can, well, not everyone can do it, but everyone's not like proficient at it or natural at it.
Open and yeah, correct and skilled.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
So
Everyone's got the ability, the
yeah,
hardware.
exactly. Yeah. So he was
Yep.
just naturally doing this, right? And so
Mm.
people are like, oh. this is God made man. The Savior is here. The Savior
We
is
found
born,
him.
or whatever like that, right? So
Right.
basically, all that
Yeah.
happened is some people believed that Jesus was it. Some people didn't. So the people that didn't just believed Jesus was a prophet. They're still Jewish, and the people that believed he was the Son of God are now Christian. That's it.
Christian.
That's it.
Gotcha.
And then so the Bible,
And that's still true now, right?
yeah,
Like the people who believe that Jesus is the literal flesh of God
yeah,
and the only one. I think that's
yes,
where I get the distinction there, Kirsten. Like the only one. Whenever I sit there, I'm like, well, aren't we all children of God? Isn't that like aren't I that too? And I'm not claiming to be Jesus. I don't mean like I think that you understand what I mean by that. If we embody God within ourselves, and by God I mean consciousness, I mean universe for everyone listening. If I embody God, it's that I'm the living embodiment of love.
yes, but religion wouldn't see it that way. So
No, religion
religion
would not,
talks
would
about
it?
you being an
Or
embodiment
Christianity
of God.
specifically.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yes, specifically. Christianity talks about you're a child of God, and
Uh-huh.
your task in this lifetime is to be good enough as per his rules or laws
Mm-hmm.
to reunite with him in the afterlife.
Afterlife. Yeah.
So they wouldn't say that we are God. They would say we're part of God.
Part of God.
So ultimately, people are going to access their spirituality
Mm.
according to their level of autonomy. So when
Right.
people don't, I like not necessarily that they don't want to take responsibility, they're just not there. That's just not their focus. They're just not
Yep.
desiring that, and maybe they just don't need that. Then religion
Mm.
is great. It gives them a moral code. It gives some lovely traditions and rituals.
Mm-hmm.
I love the ritualistic nature of religion. I
Yeah.
think it's so beautiful. And a lot
It
of people,
also gives community, right? Family. Like it
community,
gives that
yes,
meaning, connection, purpose. Yeah.
because it's like that common ground
Yeah.
where we're all here together. We're part of this family. We're part
Mm.
of this community. And as humans, if we're not part of a community, that equals death. Not too long ago, if we weren't
Correct.
part of
Yeah.
it, we'd be dead, right? So
Yep.
we will always crave that to an extent. And I
Mm.
think where people get a bit mixed up with spirituality is there's no written law. And
A
so,
one way.
yeah,
Yeah.
so people in
Yeah.
spirituality really is a relationship. Now, I didn't say this. I don't know who did. This is terrible, but it's a relationship with the self through the self.
Yep. Yep.
And the ideal self is one that is Christ consciousness, if you want to call it that, pure love.
Yep.
So
Pure
within
love.
that, you're going to act according to, you're going to be driven by love. So there is no, technically from that space, there is no judgment, there is no competition, there is no
Uh-huh.
evilness, there is none of that. So you don't necessarily need a law. Now,
Mm-hmm.
remember, if church and state were one of the same thing not too long ago,
Uh-huh.
then we used the scriptures to set the laws for the people to be governed by. Now,
Bye.
there's
Mm-hmm.
not too many countries in the world that stand today where state and religion are the same thing. They can be
Mm-hmm.
very closely intertwined, but they're not necessarily the same thing. A lot of
Yep.
Islamic countries, religion and state are still the same, one and the same thing. But I
Mm-hmm.
think where we're seeing a little bit of tension and unrest is in places like America where religion is infiltrating state. So the way
Right.
in which their political system works, the senators might be lobbying, say, for that's why they can make the abortion laws. It's got nothing to do with women's health, and it's got
Yeah.
everything to do with religion. So that's where people get up in arms over it. We don't have that
Mm.
so much in Australia, but it's an influence for
Yeah,
sure
it is.
because it's
I'm
some
so
type of moral code.
Yeah. I'm so curious because very often someone you like were you brought up in the church like has did you have like a turning point? So you're a Catholic school teacher, masters in theology, brought up Catholic, brought up Christian, is that right?
Catholic, yeah, Roman Catholic.
Catholic, yeah. And so in my understanding in from maybe from my experience or what I've witnessed to then go spiritual like you kind of alluded to at the school is like you leaving that's you leaving the church, that's you kind of like going off the rails. How did you, because it's a big deal, right? For someone to be like what I might even call indoctrinated for a long time in one way of thinking. And this is true for everybody, anybody who's listening, irrelevant of whether or not you grew up religious, you grew up with a certain set of beliefs. And if we want to be able to become our best selves, our most loving selves, to know ourselves through ourselves, like you sort of said, and to live a life on our terms, we have to have some kind of identity shift and belief change from the old into the new. I'm hearing, Kirsten, that it was massive for you. That's a huge leap, so to speak. And I'm presuming that it wasn't just one big thing. But how did you change, I suppose, your mind, your whole belief system when you were raised forever on one set of ways to now do what you're doing now?
I actually that didn't happen. So I still consider myself to be Catholic. Yeah.
Yeah.
Am I
Yep.
spiritual? Sure.
Cool.
But if would I baptize my child? Yep. So
Yep.
I actually didn't have that. Now, you hear of stories like that, especially people, really having to discommunicate themselves
Disconnect. Yeah. Mm.
from their religious culture because the religion permeates the entire culture and way of life.
Yep.
So people do have to discommunicate themselves from everything they've known in order to do something new. I did not have to do
Yep.
that. There's a few reasons why I didn't have to do that. One is because I was raised in an amazing family who, yes, we are
Mm.
Catholic, practicing, yeah, but not strict. Like we didn't live our life by it. It was, to me, it
Yep.
was presented as more tradition rather than absolute infallible truth.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Gotcha.
So I'm huge advantage there. I'm
Yep.
also a woman that really does value tradition and some type of
Mm.
structure in which
Gotcha.
people can be a part of if they choose to help them navigate life. Whether
Yeah.
that's Buddhism or whether that's, I don't know, veganism as a religion or whatever you want. I don't know.
Yeah,
Whatever you
yeah.
call it,
So true.
religion,
It like
whatever
the gym is life. Yeah, yep.
all of that, whatever it is, like you do you. And my family are not, um, yeah, we don't center our life around our religion, right? So,
Yeah, right. Gotcha.
and definitely not the moral codes and laws. Like basically, we're not
Hmm.
strict. Now, ironically,
Yep.
I was educated in a very right-winged Catholic school. Um,
Hmm.
some people would call it a group or a sect or whatever. And
Hmm.
what that gave me, I think, is just a really good, well rounded knowledge. I think people are really quick to bag religion and
Yep.
to
I would
bag
agree. Hmm.
structure purely because they don't understand it and because they feel they want to hang their hat on all the harm that it's done. Have religion
Mm.
institutions done harm? Yep, absolutely.
And
Um,
well, everything, everywhere.
everywhere.
Show me one ideology of any type, veganism, the gym life, uh, like even feminism. Show me any ideology that has not done harm, and I will show you liars.
Yep.
Because if we go back to even what the Bible might say about humans being that like sin. To me, I just take that. It's funny. The word sin in Spanish means without,
Mm,
and I love the meaning that I'm drawing from that. To sin is to be without God, without love, right? That's how I'm taking it in this way, right?
yeah,
That
nice.
that when we're human, we err. Like we're human and we have egos, and it doesn't unless your ego free, completely enlightened, there will be corruption. It just doesn't matter where.
Like where there's government, there's going to be corruption. So where there's a set way of doing things, there's going to be people in there that are going to
Of
use and
course.
abuse that for their own means,
Absolutely.
of course, right?
Yep. Yep.
So I went to this school, and I'm so grateful I went to that school because I was able to really learn about what it was like to be really strict. And my friends at
Yeah.
that school, a lot of their families were very strict, whereas mine
Yep.
wasn't. So I had this great
Mm.
balance, right? So then I went to university. I went to the Catholic university to study teaching, and the decision
Mhm.
behind that was a very practical one. You could get jobs in Catholic schools, they paid more, but you could also get jobs in state schools and private schools. Like, why wouldn't you go there? You just basically
Yep.
open
Do all
up
of them.
your
Yep.
employment opportunities, right? So then I did work in Catholic. I worked in for a year here, but then I live in the UK and I didn't work in a
Mm.
Catholic school there. But when I came back, I did work in the Catholic school system. Now,
Mm.
I have spent the majority of my teaching career teaching kindergarten children, so 5-year-olds.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. Yeah. Beautiful.
Little babies get God. They love it. You know why they love it? Because
Yep.
it's just come from spirit, and now they hear it's being given.
Totally.
And someone's talking
Yeah.
about love, and someone's talking about you're so accepted, and you're so like you can make mistakes, and God loves you anyway. And they're like, yeah, duh. Like it's how many
Yep.
parents would say like, oh, my daughter or my son, she's become really obsessed with God since starting school. I'm like, yeah, because no one's spoken the language of her spirit to her since until
Yes.
now. She's
Oh.
right. So to me, my experience of teaching it was so fun, because I was basically preaching to the converted because they love it. Because
Yeah, and the veil is so thin when we're that young, right? Like
yes,
when we're that
so thin,
thin,
so thin.
like we have less of the conditions, the less of the programming, less of all the rules, funnily enough, society rules that disconnect us from our truth.
Exactly.
You
Exactly.
teach now, don't you? Like you're a healer, you're a guide, you're a teacher.
Yeah.
You also have your podcast. I
I
featured on
teach
it
adults.
recently.
Basically, I teach adults how to really be truly aligned with their own self and their
Yeah.
own moral code and their own intuition and their own values and
Yep.
basically coming back to autonomy. Now, that doesn't mean you
Yep.
can't participate in a structured religion that aligns with that. But if you look at
Totally.
so many religions, basically are all saying the same thing: love one another
Yep.
and don't be a dick. That's all they're saying.
Yep.
Like, don't be awful.
Correct.
So
Yep.
for
Yep.
me, being in this Catholic school system, it was just so beautiful. Was I going to mass every Sunday? No. But then
Mm.
when I studied theology, it actually made me deeply respect my religion because I could see what the truth of it was. Part of
Yeah.
religious maturity is actually moving away from it to then find your way back to it. So that is a normal process we go through as teenagers.
Wow.
A lot of
Gotcha.
teenagers reject it. So there's heaps of studies on that.
Hmm.
But for me, coming back to it, not that I came back to it. I don't think I ever really left it because it was part of my job. Like it was my day-to-day life.
Hmm.
But for me, it's like actually I now understand, to come full circle what we we're talking about before, that we're really here to be God-like. We are really
Hmm.
here to
Hmm.
be love and to experience love. And life
Amen.
will give us many opportunities to turn away from that. It'll give us many opportunities to heal so we feel that love deeper. A lot of people that say, I've had all these trials and why? It's because your calling is to really love so much deeper. And that
Yeah.
beautiful saying, like, if you pray for peace, you're going to get all the storms because
Yes.
you can only
Yep.
find peace if you understand how to hold it through the storms. If you pray
Yep.
for love, you're going to get all the rejection in the world.
Yeah. If you
And I'm
pray
not
for
saying don't pray
patience, you'll
for
get
love.
all the traffic.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying don't pray for love
Yep.
or, don't pray for peace, but it's like people, I think a lot is shifting in our world. And we know with the age of
Mm.
Aquarius, we're coming back into that connection with each other and highly valuing that.
Yep.
It's not so much I'm an individual out here getting mine. It's about us connecting with each other.
Yes.
So never
Yep.
before, like the last 20 years has not been about that. The next 20 years is going to be about us really understanding that together, individually, we have to show up as our most aligned best selves. So
Yep.
then collectively, we can be so connected. And so whether that
Yes.
happens, whether it's appropriate moving forward as humanity, that happens in the tradition of religion or the context of spirituality or whatever it is, it doesn't really matter.
Yep.
It's all the same thing.
Thing.
Does that answer your
So
question? I don't think that answered your question.
yeah, no. I mean, beautifully irrelevant. It answered whatever needs to be answered in that point in time. I think that there's so much value in what you have to offer here, because I think that a lot of people think that it's religion or spirituality. Like I have to choose one or the other, and there's such wisdom in sitting there going, they're two heads of the same beast.
Religion
And
is spirituality. Religion is,
yeah,
well, as Bono says, religion is spirituality institutionalized. And those
yeah,
institutions were necessary at the time. Are they necessarily now? Maybe. Let's just put it this way. In Australia, if Catholic school system was to disappear tomorrow, our government could not
oh
afford to educate our children.
yeah, wow,
So
wow, that's
it's
saying something,
important.
isn't it? Yeah,
It's
even
important, right?
yeah.
So does the institution still need to exist? Maybe for different reasons now? Sure.
Mhm.
And as I say, like, what is wrong with teaching kids about ancient spirituality, about doing good,
Mm,
about being good? Do we
yep,
teach kids to fear God? No. Did we in the 80s, 70s, 60s? Yep. But we've
yep.
all moved on. Like, everyone, can we just
Mm.
move the fuck on?
It's so funny, Kirsten, because I for my own self, one of the highest qualities that I have cultivated in my life, that I think has been one of the driving factors of what I might call my success in many different areas of my life, and the word is discipline.
Oh, yeah.
So, and it's funny because I cultivated discipline through diet culture and an eating disorder. So there's maybe a pretty, what people might perceive as negative, because I learned how to like push myself when I didn't want to. I learned how to make sure that I wasn't like, well, the dieting and eating disorders and all that kind of stuff, that required a lot of discipline at the time, and I'd force myself. It was done out of hate, self-hate. But the skill of that, I've transferred that skill. I do it now from love. Discipline has provided for me the structure of discipline, the structure of routine of, I go work out. If my body needs rest, I will honor it. Always these days, I never push myself when my body needs rest. But most of the time, I just don't feel like it, because I'd prefer to lie on the couch. So that having that discipline and having the structure of, no, I am going to go to the gym, I am going to go for the walk, because that is what an adult does. That is what discipline allows me. It's why I can, speak another language. It's why I can play instruments. It's why I can show up in my business the way that I do, because it's discipline. There's practices, there's structure, there is all of that you're speaking to from religion. I can see that you have drawn all of those practices into your autonomy. And I feel like I'm quite the same. It kind of feels like one needs to be fairly, what would I call? Yeah, like self autonomous, self sufficient, sovereign, in order to kind of float without some kind of human grounding. Like I feel like I see a lot in the spiritual circles, a lot of woo woo people, and I try to book in a session with them. They're like, "Oh no, I don't do websites, and I don't do phones, because I'm just in the flow of consciousness." And I'm like, "You live in human reality. Get a fucking website. Take my money." Like this, it's been insane to me, because I'm like, we need to be both. We need to have the structure, the discipline, because we're human.
Absolutely. And I think that, so two things I want to pick up on what you said there.
Mm,
When you reflect on discipline, it actually inspires me to reflect on, well, how has this contributed to my success and my genuine happiness in the way in which
yeah.
I live my life? And I think what it comes down to is curiosity in the mystery, because that's what
Mm,
religion is. Like they say, like only God knows. And so it's like, okay, so no one really knows anything. So no one is infallible.
yep.
No one knows the best way, whether it's the diet, the bank account, the mortgage, no one knows the best way.
Yep.
And so
Yep.
what does that leave me with? a truckload of curiosity. And I would say that that
Yeah.
is the reason why I have been very successful in my
Mm.
teaching career, because I knew how to do it. I did it. And I just never knew enough to know enough. Always happy to try something new type thing, right?
Yes.
Because every
Yeah.
kid's different, right? So how does this kid need to learn this as opposed to that kid? But then at
Yep.
the same time, you're sitting in the classroom, so we're all going to learn it this way first. So
Yeah.
it's like that beautiful balance of it. And
Mm.
then in business, when I went full time into my businesses, I have zero background in business. I don't know
Mm.
anything about business. And I had zero fear because I was curious to figure it out as I went. I had
Yeah.
no idea 4 years ago that my business would look the way it does now. Didn't even know it was going to be called the things that it's called, like the few businesses that I have. And I don't know what it's going to look like in 4 years. And that doesn't freak me out. It excites me. So,
Yeah.
so actually, religion did the opposite as what I guess is what I was supposed to do, and didn't give me rigidity, it
Yes.
gave me this expansion. And as humans, that is
Curiosity.
what we're here to
Mm.
do. We're here to expand. If you're someone that wants to live the way your ancestors has always lived, buy the house, have the 2.3 children, drive a minivan, work for someone else, that's great. You do you.
Yeah.
Your life,
Absolutely.
clearly, you haven't chose it to be about evolving. But
Mm.
I think the people that choose evolving just get curious. They want
Yeah.
to maybe learn how to meditate. They want to learn qigong. They want to, I don't know, stand on their head. I don't know what they want to do,
Yep.
but everyone's just seeking. And I think people have um, dissed seeking as wishy-washy or
Yep.
wasted
Yep.
time because of that
Fluffy, flaky.
conditioning. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just because of the
Yep.
conditioning into this is the way we've always done it, do it this way, right?
Yeah.
So, for those seekers that are in this spiritual world, I think there are people that are trapped on that exact level you talked about. Oh,
Mm.
but like this is it, and this is how I do it, and it's
Yeah.
bullshit. And so I used to get really annoyed at
Mm-hmm.
people like that, and I get really annoyed at people that don't represent what we're trying to do or what we are doing. We're not even trying to do it, what we're doing,
We are doing. Yeah. Yeah.
because like COVID, for example, how many people decided to become life coaches, and now I'm this and now I'm that, and it's like, sorry, like you have zero clue, because it's got
Yep.
nothing to do with that beautiful cohesion between your talent, your desire, and what lights you up, your
What the?
purpose.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
just did it because you were sick of doing something else. And so
Yep.
these people are now being weeded out, but it makes people like us not look as professional. And I was speaking to a colleague about this, and she was saying, yeah, but this is what it's all about. It's actually about people being in their sovereignty and their autonomy to pick people to work with
Yep.
and to trust that. But if we've been institutionalized, if we've not thought for ourselves, if we've not been curious,
Mm.
then we don't know how to choose for ourselves. We don't know how to listen to our intuition. We don't know how
Mm.
to be discerning. We don't know how to know what makes us truly happy. We
Mm.
don't know what security really is, other than, oh, I guess I should just work for someone else so the pay gets guaranteed and then I know what mortgage I can afford.
Yeah.
And so that is shifting. And that people like you and I are here to crack people open to that and to help guide them and teach
Facilitate that,
them
right?
on how to do that effectively. And the
Yeah.
secret sauce isn't all that secret. It's literally curiosity and a deep commitment to constantly meet yourself in all your different
Mm.
ways and stages of
Mm.
evolving.
Mm.
Like,
Mm.
are you willing to change? I was literally
Yeah.
having a conversation with a colleague this morning. She's feeling really nervous and really scared because she's not sure if her relationship is the one she does want to commit to forever. And it's like that shit'll get off the pot moment. She's really nervous about the way in which she works. And I'm like, yeah, it is scary. It does feel uncertain because we're not following a rule
Mm.
book. But isn't that the beauty of it? Because
Yeah.
really it's just about you becoming more. And the fact that you're questioning it means you're fine. The fact that you're questioning means
Yeah.
you'll be all right. So those people that
Yes.
don't question, I'm like, I worry about those people.
Yeah, it's so incredible. There's so much there. It reminds me of there's a speech that Alan Watts. I quite like that guy. I think he's from the 70s or something. Spiritual teacher, I guess. I don't really know. I discovered him somewhere. Cool dude, and I listened to his speeches on YouTube or Spotify, and he goes, imagine that every night you could dream whatever you wanted to. And you went into the dream and you got everything that you wanted in the dream, the cars and the life and the whatever. And he goes, and you could do that. And for 7 years you did. And then kind of you were like, I kind of want something a little bit more interesting. So you might go into the dream and let it unfold as it unfolds. You might just go along, and after a little while you might just go, well, I don't even want to know what's going to happen, I just want to find out. And then maybe there might even be time where you do that for so long that you might even want to experience suffering.
Mhm.
And I love this analogy of like, if you could have it all and if we knew it all, right, then we would be source. That's where we came from. We already knew that.
You'd be dead.
And it's almost like what's his name, Neil Donald Walsh in Conversations with God
Mm.
says that, you know, we came here forgetting everything so that we could remember it all, because that's the joy of it. Like we could remember what we are in our source, but you can't remember that if you haven't forgotten. So it's such a beautiful
A
place to
million
be in.
percent. If any of your listeners follow me or are familiar with my work, you will know that I have a big bee in my bonnet about the word manifestation. I hate that word. I
I can't
hate
say I love it. I can't say I love it. I don't tend to use it.
it.
Tell
So
me.
this is where, so you have to remember that part of the world we live in is one in which, especially for the last 20 years, consumerism was God.
Oh, yeah,
Right? Because it was
absolutely.
the ultimate. It was that was the enlightenment. Get all the shit, get all the things, be
Yep,
rich, be better than
yep,
everyone else. Then change your
yep.
face and your body to make it look forever young, right? Isn't that just
Uh-huh.
like
Yep,
eternal youth, God? Like
yep.
anyway. So so when people talk about manifestation, it's one of those things that really tick me off because we didn't come here to get stuff.
It's
We came
correct.
here to do exactly what you just talked about, to be stuff, to
Remember
be
who we
more.
are. Yes,
Yeah.
be.
So
Yes.
that's why when
Yeah.
you pray for peace, of course your world's going to get really unpeaceful because
Yeah.
that's what you're ultimately manifesting, for want of a better word.
Mm,
So
mm.
if you're tempted to sign up to a manifestation coach so you can get the guy or you can get the thing, just know that you're getting ripped off because it isn't about the guy or the thing. It's about alignment. It's about
Yep.
what is this desire
Mm.
calling forth in me?
And it's that surrender piece too. Actually, even in the shower just this morning, I'm a week away from launching a course. That starts in about a week, and like the human part of me has numbers that I might want to hit or that kind of stuff. And I'm in the shower, and I'm like, right, where's my focus for today? And I can feel the energy going, duh, 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 and I'm like, hang on a second, where's my focus, Luna? Because focus is such an important piece of where my mind's going to be and where my energy feels going to be. I'm like, hang on a second. If I have rigid rules of how it's meant to be, then I'm limiting myself.
Oh my
So I
God.
was like,
Yes. Absolutely.
yes,
Because your desire to put this course out, so intention is everything. Your desire to put this course out is for what it has potential to gift people. And what
yes,
you get
not
in
what I can
return,
get.
yeah, but what you get in return should be abundant if what you're giving
Absolutely.
people is abundant. Like that just makes sense. And you do not know enough to know everything. So you have to
Totally.
constantly be curious. My
Yep.
dad, right, not spiritual, religious. He's pretty much the only one in the family that's religious. So him
Mm.
and I will go to mass together, for example, when I'm with my parents. But so he's I gave him a gift where they have to answer questions and they fill it out. They like write a book just reflecting on their life, and I think it's such a
Oh, yeah,
beautiful
cool.
thing that we can all have. So the question this week for him was, "What's one small decision that changed your life?"
Yeah.
So he wrote that some guy at school rang me up and asked me to go and play footy for this team. Um, and so if my dad had been like, I know which football team I want to play for, and it's not that football team,
Yep.
or
Yep.
or I have this.
It's not the right time. I
Yeah,
shouldn't do it. Or I'm not a
studying
football
this and
player.
right. He wouldn't have met my mum because that man that
Wow.
rang him up is now my uncle, my mum's.
Yeah. Brother. Yeah.
So he didn't say yes to the football team to meet my mum. He
No.
said yes because an opportunity was given to him. And
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if you're listening to this, how often you limit yourself by not saying yes to things because you're so in complete and utter fear, hence
Yeah.
control mode over the
Control. Yeah.
outcome. So when
Yeah.
going back to what you asked me before about how did I manage that expansion into spirituality
Mm.
when religion's all I've known, it's purely because I said yes because I was curious.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
in that, I learned so much. Some of it I've kept, some of it I haven't. My
Mm.
spiritual life has actually made my religious life more meaningful.
Yeah.
I did not, for example, I studied theology. I did it for a job promotion.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I didn't do it because I thought it would be really fun to do another fucking master's degree. Let me tell you, they're not fun. But you basically had to have this master's in order to get into leadership.
Yep.
As part of that, I just happened to be right place, right time, where I got offered a month to go and study in Israel. I
Yeah.
lived
Wow.
in this, and from that came other things. And it's just like, so say yes to life, get
Yep.
curious.
And I love what you just said there, Kirsten. You're like, it just happened. That is that kind of, the whole premise of this podcast is how'd you get so lucky? And it's like you can sit there and dream and manifest in the middle of your living room as much as you want, but if you don't go out into the world and start making choices, nothing like an opportunity to go, work in Israel for a month is not going to knock on your door because you've written it down a million times and waved your sage around. Like, you put
Yes.
yourself in the way of what could be possible, and you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know, but it's like you have to pray and run. Like you
Yes.
have to do
100%.
both.
Hundred
This is co-creation. You can't just go, I'm just going to sit here and write down the passages and journal on it. Okay, so I want to meet him out of my dreams, but I'm never going to leave my house or get online.
Yeah.
Well, it's never going to happen. What, the garbage man's going to knock on your door?
Yeah.
Maybe, but come on.
I, and that's why I love the title of your podcast. How did I get so lucky? Here's how I got lucky. I got autonomous.
Yeah,
I took
love it.
responsibility for myself. So yes, did things open up to me and were paths revealed that maybe I deeply feel was always destined to, the way I define that is I
Yep.
agreed as a soul to come and do this and here I'm doing it.
Uh-huh.
But I fell into, well, I came across spirituality when I was 30. I didn't
Hmm.
leave full-time teaching till I was 41. I didn't want this path.
Yeah.
So it was something I had to really kind of surrender to. So I learnt the art of surrendering over and over again. I think I decided around 35 that this was I couldn't wait to get out of teaching. Do you think I could get out of teaching? No, because
6 years later, right? Took you
all
another
way,
6 years from that
all
point.
those things.
Yeah.
And you know what got me out of teaching? I got offered a redundancy. I didn't have to take it, but I got offered a redundancy. Now,
Yep.
the human smart thing to do, what I should have done is no, that's a lie. Sorry. What I should have done according to social norms
Human. Yeah, correct. The safe thing.
was take the money and go and get another teaching job for a couple of years, be
Yep.
completely financial free and abundant, then go full time.
Mhm.
I didn't
Yep.
do that.
Yep.
I took the money and I started my business. Now, let me tell you,
Wow.
was that scary? Yep.
Yeah.
Do I still have days? Absolutely. That whole thought of, oh, and I want to make this kind of money from it. Of course, I have to pay my bills. I have to feed myself.
That's right.
Like,
Yep.
yes, of course I think that way. But
Yeah.
a friend of mine said, how do you know when to say yes and why you're saying
Yeah.
yes? Because of my autonomy and my curiosity, because I know what I value. I know
Mm.
my strengths And I'm fully surrendered to making magic with those, even if it's not what I desire.
Perfect. Thy will be done, huh?
Yeah. So if you have a fixed
There's,
idea of what you want in your life and it's your dream and it's your goal or whatever,
yeah,
but you don't have that surrender to natural talent and really hard discipline work like you talked about, and the
yeah,
willingness to really go for it, like you have to have all three. I would
yeah.
love, I had this fantasy that I'm a really good tennis player. Like
Hmm,
really,
yeah, yeah.
I when I think of myself playing tennis, I'm really good. I have zero natural talent for tennis. Like zero. I'm the worst.
You're like, it's not good for
Not
me.
happening. So, imagine if I was like, right, I know how to teach. I'm going to be a tennis coach. Right. I'm
Mm,
not going to be happy. I'm actually not doing myself or humanity a service.
yeah,
But the only way
yeah,
you can get there and know that, because lots of people come to me and say, what's my purpose? Like, that's the big question.
yeah.
What's my purpose? I don't
Mm,
know what my purpose is. Your purpose is love. Your purpose is joy. Your purpose is service. And your purpose is evolving.
yes.
I don't care what form that
Amen.
comes in. You could be sewing cushions. I don't care what the form is.
Correct.
But if
Yep.
it doesn't tick those boxes, then that's how you know it's a no and not a yes.
Mhm. People find it staggering that this work that I do, people follow me for a long while. They're just like, you were made for this. Like this is, they see me, you're in an element. This is what you were born to do. And I was like, it's funny that you say that. I would be just as happy, so to speak, working in a bookstore and oh, like it's the inner work is the mission. It's not this is fabulous. I love this. I love that I get to do it every day, and it's such a gift because I've been gifted this. I've been gifted the gift of the gab, the gift of words, the gift of charisma, confidence, whatever it happens to be. I'm a great teacher. I've learned a whole bunch of stuff, so I can give that back. That's fabulous. I've just been gifted with those things, right? So it's my job to then pass on that gift. The real point is to love. The real point is for me to evolve and to reconnect with source. That's the real work that I'm doing, and that just happens to manifest. Look at that. Not I manifested it. It happens to manifest
It,
that
al- it
this is how
aligns. It aligns with this
it,
right now.
it aligns with this. And I think that you and I could talk for a
I
ridiculous amount
know,
of
and
time.
I
I love it, Kirsten. It's so good that like that alignment, understanding that, surrendering to the truth of what you are. Like you're never going to be a tennis player.
yeah,
Like you can play tennis for fun,
yep,
go for it,
yep.
right? I love music. I love singing. I'm okay at it. I'm a half decent singer. Like I can rock a karaoke. Happy to play at the piano with my friends. It's I could probably cultivate that, but you know what? And I do play it every day, and I love it. But it's actually never going to be something that I'm pursuing professionally. I do it because I love it, not because it's gonna make me money one day. And I think people need to remember that we're allowed to have hobbies and we don't have to
Yes.
monetize everything.
And coming back to that and what we were talking about before, that if your intention behind doing something is because of what you're getting,
Yeah.
you're going to be slammed. And I really want to challenge everyone who's listening to this. This is really hard. And there's people are going to be salty with this, but is what it is.
Yeah.
But I really want to challenge everyone to consider applying that mindset to their romantic relationships.
Cool.
Why are you married to or with that person?
Yeah.
Is it because
Yeah.
of what you're getting from that, which might be okay? You
Yeah.
might need to be with that person for security
You're
as
allowed
well,
to receive.
right?
Yeah. Yep. Hmm.
But what really drives you to that connection? Because the
Yeah.
connection you have with your partner is the most important because it infiltrates every aspect of your life. You cannot,
Mm.
I don't think, be free and out there in the world on purpose if you're lying to yourself about that basic need.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that in the
Wow.
age of Aquarius is the one that's really going to be challenging. So whilst we're talking about maybe religion and spirituality and what we do for work and all that kind of stuff,
Hmm.
like if we're going to think about it, let's go to the hard bits. Let's think about that.
Yeah, let's be conscious, deliberate. When I talk about a life on your terms, when I talk about a deliberate life, I think that word is really specific there. It's deliberate, it's making choices. It's not just, it's funny, we're going with the flow of the river, but we're deliberately getting in the river. We're deliberately choosing our vessel. We're deliberately choosing the way we think and the way that we see the world. That was me in the shower this morning. Hang on, how do I want to be today? If we're not deliberately choosing how you want to be, your default is likely to be fear and doubt, because that is what the default of the ego is. You got to make the choices. Kirsten, as I said before, you're a moon mentor, a healer, guide, teacher, podcast host. You're dedicated your mission of mentoring, supporting, and teaching others in their life journey. And it's been such a pleasure speaking with you. You are the founder of the Path Collective, where you lead a team of skilled practitioners committed to providing support, healing, and guidance. And additionally, you also are the visionary entrepreneur behind the Ritual Emporium. So it's an online haven for ritual products. Is that right?
That's right. I think that, we can't just be all up in the woo woo. We have,
Mm,
sometimes we have to make our own rituals, especially with what we are talking about before, the decline of religion. So, do we have any sacred
yeah.
rituals we have for ourselves? Basically, it also stemmed from the fact that people would ask me, where do I get that? Or you use this? Where does that
Yeah.
happen? Because they're interested in my personal rituals just through my work in business. And I do
Mhm.
have an amazing gifted team with their own modalities, so human design, astrology, hypnotherapy, tarot,
Mhm.
like money
Mhm.
mentor. Money's a big one. You guys need to really consider that as an energetic and spiritual practice. So I have these
Yep.
amazing, they all happen to be women, have these amazing women there to help hold and guide you.
Fab.
But our intention is
Mm.
very, very founded in autonomy and
Yep.
sovereignty. So you can come to us. We will absolutely hold you, but you will be doing the work.
I love it. You've got a passion for personal empowerment. You guide individuals, like you just said, seeking profound connections with themselves, authenticity, and the embodiment and the vision of abundance. We all want that. You have extensive resources, teaching, and products that empower people to elevate their lives and enable us to live a fulfilling and genuine loved existence. Where can we find more about you, about your work, about your team?
So let's just go to the website straight up. So the lightpathcollective.com. There
Mhm.
you'll find, self-paced courses, the moon membership. If you're someone who's really looking to tap into their feminine energy and to be in consistent depth with yourself and relationship with yourself, then jump on the moon membership. It's the easiest way to do it. It's like a little insight into spirituality. So you can look at all that we offer there.
Mhm.
The podcast is the Light Path podcast with Kirsten Leo. We drop every Monday. You'll be on it soon, so you'll be
I'll be on it. See, I'll be featuring on it. So
this
go check out that
conversation,
episode.
a different conversation. But
Mhm.
so there's that there. If you kind of want to get to know me and what I do, and my views more thoroughly, if you want ritual tools, the ritualemporium.com, those products there to just give you a little time with yourself, because you can't know yourself if
Yes.
you're not hanging out with yourself. So
Fabulous.
all of that's there. I think is that everything? I think that's everything.
I would think so. I mean, on the socials, I'm going to put all the
Oh,
links
socials, yeah.
and the links for your socials. I know that you've got TikTok and you've got Instagram, so
Yeah.
we can just come and I'm going to pop all the details in the show notes anyway. Kirsten Leo is her name, the Light Path Collective or the Ritual Emporium. So I think on TikTok you are the Light Path Collective and the Ritual Emporium on both TikTok and
Yeah.
Instagram, so
Yeah.
people can
Super
find you
easy.
there. Kirsten, 5 words to sum up how to live a life on your terms. They can be in a sentence, they can be individual. What are 5 words to sum up to close today's conversation?
I don't know if this is 5 words, but be brave enough to be honest.
It's 6, but I'm going with it. I love it. Be brave enough to be honest. Oh, amen to that. Thank you, Kirsten Leo. It's such a pleasure having you here on the podcast today. Thank you for being here. I appreciate it.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you so much for listening to the More Confidence with Luna Gaia podcast. I hope you feel more confident, more self-assured, and ready to go tackle the world's problems and maybe kick ass in some of your dreams. If you haven't already, I would love for you to like and subscribe, follow, and maybe leave a review so that other people know how to find this awesome podcast too. If you're wanting to sink your teeth into something even more juicy, my #1 best-selling book, Perfectly Imperfect, Your Complete Guide to Loving Yourself and Loving Your Body, is now available on all good bookstore sites, both in print, digital, and I narrated it for Audible as well. If you think that coaching or maybe one of my courses is for you, why not head to www.moreconfidence.com.au and get in touch and see if we can talk. And of course, you can find me all across the social medias. That's Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, YouTube, which is where you're probably listening now, or maybe even here on the podcast platform. Sending you big love and wishing you a beautiful day.